Hi, son. How you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good,
Thanks
good.
anyway. So as you know, I've been doing a lot of conversations on dating and relationships and stuff like that, and we've got a few people that I know that are married already. And I wanted to bring you on just to ask you a few questions because you've been married for a long time. Uh,
Okay.
just for people who don't know, how long have you been married for?
I've been married for 30 years this year. 4th of July, 2022 will be 30 years.
Oh, 30 years. Okay, okay. Um, if you could give any advice to early couples between going from year one to year five, I would say that's kind of still early. But what advice would you give to couples, to married couples?
Wow. Well, I suppose like in the first 5 years or the first year, I think the key thing is be patient with each other. The reality of life, especially nowadays, there's so many pressures that people face, especially married couples. And when we talk about being married, we've got all the I'll use the word all the baggages, good baggages that come along with that commitment, responsibilities, buying a home, renting a flat, having children, working, juggling, juggling your life. And I think, all of that, I would just say, really, you need to be patient with each other.
Mhm.
And that's the key thing. But I think it's something that cannot be underestimated communication. I think communication is the key thing, whether you're 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, or 30 years. It's really about communication as well. So that's what I would say anyway.
Okay, and thanks for that. I'm gonna go back actually because something that I just that's come to my mind. But for someone that wants to be married, what steps do you think they should take generally? What steps do you think they should take, and what things should they consider if they're looking to be married? And I'm mainly focusing on the men.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I think
I guess
that's
I'll
that,
make it
that's
easier. Yeah, what stuff should they have under their belt? Just the general stuff to help. I guess I know
yeah.
every woman's different, but just the general things that can help.
I think that's very every case is different, and it really is. And I think sometimes the danger that we can put ourselves into is thinking that we need X, Y, and Z before I get married. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have certain things prepared in our lives. We shouldn't have a job. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a job. We shouldn't have, certain things in our lives. But I wouldn't too much like to put certain things down and say it needs to be A, B, and C, and D.
Okay.
Because in my 30 years I've been married, I know people that got engaged and they didn't have anywhere to live,
Right.
at
Okay.
the point of engagement. And it's at that point they thought, oh, I better get a flat, and they rented a flat. I know people who
Mhm.
um, decided not to go university and get married. I mean, they cut everything off. They
Mm.
decided not to go university. They put their education on hold, and they got married. And yet I know other people who have, you know, I suppose, done it the right way, if I can use that terminology. And they saved money. They they got a place before they got married, and they moved into a nice home and everything else. Every situation is always different, and I think especially when you're dealing with preparing for marriage and everything else, there are going to be circumstances that don't meet the norm. And I think whether you're male or female, I think it's for the partners, both male and female, to then kind of sit down and decide what are their non-negotiables, what are the things that are as vital and relevant for them. Now, just to emphasize, I do think personally it's good for a husband or a man to to have a job, a secure job, whatever that job might be. Um, he may not necessarily, I'll give you an example. When I got
Mhm.
married, when I got engaged, I was working, but I was still living at home with my mum. It wasn't until, you know, your mother, it wasn't until your mother said yes, I thought, well, hang on a minute, I better make sure that I get a place. And then I went out and I got a mortgage, and thank God, before we got married, we actually bought a property. So again, it's different, but again, it's really important that every situation and every relationship is different. Um, and but the one thing that I would say, if you said, well, what's the one key thing that you should have under your belt? I
Mm,
would say have a good steady job. So at least you know you've got income. Whether it's you need to rent or you decide to buy, at
mm,
least you know you've got a job behind you. And it doesn't really matter what that job is. I know some people have a taboo topic or a taboo thing about, certain people should have this particular job and that particular job. At the end of the day, when you meet somebody and you fall in
mm,
love with them, you're not falling in love with their job, you're falling in love with the person. And
mm.
it's about a journey, and a journey of discovery, and a journey of venture. Um, and that's what I would say anyway.
Okay, no, no, thanks for that. Um, what do you? Because from what I'm hearing, the unique cases, what does it take to kind of make that work? I mean, I know the word, but I think I want to get you to kind of pick it out because in those unique situations, because like you said, which is a good point, you might not have what most people would say. This is step one. This is step two. Some people might be on step three, but they've missed one and two. But in order for that to work, what's key in that, to make that work? Would you
Yeah.
say?
Can I ask you can you ask that question again? I'm just want to make sure that I understand what you're asking me.
Okay, so okay, what attribute is needed for those unique situations to actually work? Because just so people can understand, just so people can I know what it is. Because okay, I'll just say it like this. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's communication, which is important because not everybody is going to have everything sorted, like you said, or in order as people might assume things should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it does. I think one of the key things though, and I need to stress that I think from my point of view, that when two people decide to get married, the complexity of their relationship changes. And it's not just now them, it's their family, their external family. And that can be a challenge as well. And I just think that um, whilst we talk about communication, excuse me,
Hmm.
whilst we talk about communication, it is really vital and really important. Um, in a relationship, there's so many other dynamics that we need to consider or should consider, because when two people are getting becoming one, as it were, um, their past has a lot to play on their relationship, and what they've experienced in the past
Okay.
sometimes can unconsciously feed into that relationship, and responses and attitudes can be demonstrated or can be manifested simply because of past events that have probably stayed under the surface, and not until you're actually in a relationship do those
Mm.
things come to surface. I'm not sure if that answers your question, sorry.
No, it does. It does. It really does. And just I guess this could be the last question. I guess is actually probably two, if you don't mind me asking. But um, no, I'll ask this question actually. Um, because I've heard a lot of guys say that this is um a issue with themselves or they're nervous to do this. But how important is it, in your experience, for a man to be transparent in their affection and love to their wife, and what is uh, a wife looking for from a husband in your in your
In
experience?
my experience,
Yeah,
um I think sorry, excuse me.
that's okay.
I think
That's okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
I think being transparent and open with your emotion is vital, and and is important for every relationship.
Hmm.
But then I go back to that key point about your past experiences, and that's why I say relationships are never black and white. Every relationship is different. I'll give you an example. You may have somebody, a young man, who's been through a rough childhood, difficult childhood. Mother and father are absent, so he hasn't been shown how to love. He doesn't know how to be affectionate. He doesn't. Those things aren't in his life. So when
mm,
he does find somebody that he does have feelings for, he may not. He may find it very difficult to demonstrate his love.
mm,
So that's why I say every relationship and everything, every relationship is different. And I think that that man that is going into that relationship needs to examine himself carefully and know where he's coming from, so he can articulate good enough to say to his future wife, you know what, I've been through this in my childhood and I find it difficult sometimes to express my love or even to say I love you. And I think that that's one of the things that is so important when you when and I think you touched on a good point when you spoke about communication, spending time talking about what you've been through and certain experiences. And I need to stress, I used to say something once, and I learned, as I get older, I learned that it's not always possible. You know,
mm,
your partner, whether husband or wife, may not know everything about you. You know, I mean, there may be some things that you haven't shared with that partner. Now I used to say you should share everything that tell them everything. And I don't mean any deep dark secret, in any
mm,
negative things, but sometimes, um if I give you an example, I knew somebody who were getting married, and it's just by so chance that the husband um had more relationships than the wife. Now, what he had done in this past, where before he was a Christian, was before in the past. Now, the question was, does he tell his new partner, his new wife, that he's had six girlfriends and six relationships outside of his marriage? Well, sorry, before he was married, and now
yeah.
he's become a Christian. Do you kind of say, well, does she need to know? You may you may say,
Mm,
well, yeah, she should know, and I think, yeah, you should know, but then the intimacy element of that relationship and how certain things developed he may not need to go into detail into that sort of thing. But again, it really is about every relationship is different. And some partners, I know one partner who didn't really find it necessary or didn't want to know about um, his wife's partners in the past. As far as he was concerned,
I see.
he was marrying her, and it didn't really matter. And I think, again, it really is about, that's why I
Mm,
say not everything is black and white, not everything is always cut down the middle. Sometimes, depending upon the situation, depending upon the circumstances, depending upon your history, depending upon your vision or your future, it all depends. And that's why it is so unique. And that's why each marriage, if I would say something, I would say each person, husband and wife, man and woman, needs to find out what's right for them. Because you
mm.
can sit down and read a book that tells you need to do A, B, and C, but that might not work for you.
I know
Everybody
that.
needs to
Yeah.
find out what works for them. And the only way that you can do that is by talking to your partner, talking to them. How do you want me to love you? How do you want me to treat you? Not in that sense, but sometimes I know, for example, a woman who's been brought up in church all her life and found it very difficult to talk about how she feels because her parents never really showed emotion. And then there's a flip side. I know a husband who has the opposite, where his mother was very affectionate, and sometimes he can be over affectionate. So do you
Okay.
get me?
So
It's
it's
all
about that
about
communication. Yeah, I
communication and
can
that level.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I'll ask two more questions, 'cause I think this one's important as well. Because I've heard people say, um, "What do you bring to the table?" I don't know if you've heard that saying before.
Yeah.
Um, but for a man in a marriage, even before. But okay, so what do you think a man can help more with in a marriage, in general, that a woman would appreciate, and also, from your experience, what can a wife help a husband with generally as well, in order for the marriage to be
To flourish.
yeah, to flourish. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's an interesting question. I think the simplicity of it is that in a m- I think in a marriage, in a relationship, um, I'll use him. I use myself as an example. Then, what I bring to the table, or what did I bring to the table? I brought love. I brought stability. I brought friendship. I brought companionship. I brought um, all of those qualities to the relationship. And I think that you can talk about, you can label many things, I suppose, but I think
Mm,
a wife, a woman, is looking for someone that would love her, love her children, be a good father, be a good role model, be a provider, um, be a protector, um, and encompassing all of that, ensure that the home is a place where of safety and love and protection. And again, all of those things sound very, I suppose, cliche.
mhm,
But I remember, I think you don't remember, but you were probably two at the time,
mhm,
2 or 3. I lost my job, and we had just bought a property. And I said to myself, Lord, I'm meant to be the provider, and I can't provide for my wife. And I never forget that the Lord said to me one night, just came to my spirit. He said, you may not be able to provide right now financially, but I want you to provide emotionally, mentally, physically into that relationship. So, and that is really for both parties, because at the end of the day, both male and female, we all want to be loved. We all want
mhm,
to be respected. We all want to be feel protected and nourished. And those are the things that I think that both husband and wife should bring to the table. It's the it can get, not, I won't say complex, but it can get very not demanding. It can get very um, challenging if you have two people that are on two different paths. And what I mean by
mm,
that, you might have somebody that's very, very focused and very has got a passion and a dream and a vision. He wants to. They want to be an entrepreneur, and they want to go out and do things. And that you could have the wife that says, "Well, I'm not really interested in that. I'm not really bothered about that. It's not an issue for
mm,
me." And sometimes I've seen that can cause issues in the relationship, because I want to go left, but the wife really wants us to go right.
yeah,
And I think that's where I go back to that first point about communicating, about at the first part of your courtship, of your relationship with this partner, do they add value to what you want to, where you want to go in your life? And I think
okay,
all of those things are really important, because if you're very if you're very driven, if you're educationally driven, you want to go to university, you want to do this, you want to do that, you then want somebody behind you that may not
I can mirror
necessarily
that.
be in the driving seat, but
Yeah,
is in your corner, that's saying, go on, you can do it, go on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, and pushing you on. And it's strange you saying that, because today I was thinking about the sacrifices that your mother made, Carlene. And when we got married, she decided to stay home with the children, and I decided to go out and work. And she sacrificed a lot of her years, um, not working, staying at home, doing the things she did, doing the things that she looking after the children. Now, for me, that was a more valuable thing that she did than us going doing anything else, because she showed her commitment there. She showed her compassion and her love and her desire to ensure that the children were nurtured in the right way. And I think that's beautiful. And, I really thank God that later on, God really prospered her, and she became a manager of the educational department. And you know about
mm,
that, and
yeah,
see
yeah,
how God really blessed her financially. And it was amazing, because a part of my prayer was, Lord, she sacrificed a lot of her years with the children. I pray that you would increase her and bless her. And I think that that's really a good thing to have. So again, I go back down to that key thing that you mentioned about
yeah, yeah,
about communication, and about
mm,
knowing where you are. And we all bring something to the table. And it's not just about job, finances, and there's so much, but it's because sometimes to an individual, to a wife or to a husband, you having a good job may not be relevant for them. They just may want, their key thing might be, I want someone that will love me and respect me. Do you get me?
yeah, yeah. I get
Yeah.
that. No, thank you. And a last, literally, I just go with the last one
That's
because
okay.
something
That's all right.
at the sort of gets to my mind. But how important is it to work together? Because a lot of people today focus on gender roles, and how important is it to work together. And that's going to honestly be my last
No,
question.
it's okay. I mean, the thing about it, I think the thing that we've got to be careful when we talk about gender roles, the husband, he's the head of the home, and the wife, she's the weaker vessel. And we use terminologies like that. And I do think that we miss the object, we miss the point. Yeah, we really miss the point because, when God created Adam and Eve, they were a unit to work together. Yeah, when God made man, he was, in charge of the garden, till the garden, do this, do that. And then God said, you know what? I realize that this man needs a help. This man needs somebody that's able to stand with him in the heat of the day, do double the work that he does, but also the same person that's meant to be the weaker vessel is now also has the capacity to carry a child. Yeah,
Hmm.
this weaker vessel, yeah, is now meant to, the reason why I emphasize that is because we focus so much on female, male, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. What I'm trying to say is that if a husband and wife work together, it'd be amazing what they can do and what they can achieve.
Hmm.
It's not, I don't have to come home and say I'm the head of the home. I don't think in the years that you've been at home, Nathan,
No.
you've ever heard me say I'm the head of the
No.
house. I don't have to say that because we just work together. We work together in unity. There's levels of responsibility. There are some things that I find that is my responsibility to do as the husband, not because my wife can't do it, not because she's a weaker vessel, but it's just simply because there's a responsibility that I have. And I do think that a husband should be responsible and look after the home, and be caring and loving and kind, and all those sort of things. And I think if the two partners come together and just work together, it'd be amazing that what they can achieve. There will be no room, or no, there'll be no room or attitude about, well, you're the husband, you're meant to do this, or you're the wife, you're meant to do that. You know as much as I do that if my wife comes home from work and I'm at home all day doing nothing, me not cooking the food because I'm the husband is not a good sign. As a husband, there's nothing stopping me going in the kitchen and rolling up my sleeves and preparing some food for my wife that comes home. Yeah. So
Mm.
it's about working together, and just letting the beauty. It's something that I was thinking today, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of us has the capacity to love. And
Mm.
this may sound very controversial, and I'm not saying, we know I know that there are some really wicked people out there, and when I say that, we all have the capacity to love, and some say we also have the capacity to hate. But what I'm emphasizing on, I know couples that are not Christians, that don't go to church, but they live a loving relationship. Husband and wife, they don't argue, they don't curse, they're just loving each other
Yeah.
with the building blocks of love. And I think we can sometimes, even in the church, make marriage very complex and very. We just love each other, treat each other with respect, with love, and just as the Bible says, treat each other as you would like to be treated. So the
Mm.
same way that if I come from work and I would like a nice dinner on the table, so does my wife. And it's about nurturing that relationship and that love, and as time goes on, that love grows and matures into something really beautiful. It's something that others can partake of, and
Okay.
hopefully your
Mm.
children can see that as well.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's helped. I think we've got a lot from that. Is there anything else lastly you wanted to say? I know I've been asking you the
That's
questions.
okay.
Anything else you wanna
um
add to
i,
that?
I think one of the things that I was reminded of today was the scripture that says marriage is honorable, and the bed undefiled. I remember being in a wedding conference that I was teaching, and somebody asked a question about what is right or what isn't right in the bedroom between a husband and a wife. Um, and I said then, and I'll continue to say now, what happens in the privacy of a husband and a wife's bedroom has nothing to do with me, you know. And I think we need
Mm.
to, as long as the husband and the wife are loving each other, and nobody is treating each other horribly and wrong, and
Yeah.
being cruel and horrid. But love is of God. And again, I go back to this word, and even in the intimacy of a husband and a wife's private chamber, communication is important. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
talking and finding out how to nurture that love one with another.
Mm,
Because it's I think that what God has blessed us with, it is a wonderful, wonderful, um, it's a wonderful blessing, you know, and we have a wonderful pattern in the scriptures to see how Adam and Eve were brought together, and how Eve was taken out of Adam. There's a partnership there. There's a connection, and a husband and a wife has that special connection. And I think every marriage is not the same. Every marriage is different. And I would just really say to any married couple or future married couple, find out what works for you. You
mm,
know, find out what works for you. And the reason why I emphasize that is because the intimacy level within a husband and a wife is something really beautiful, and it should be something sacred and something very um private. Yeah, very private. As long as no one's been abused and no one's being ill-treated, it's private. And I say that because I remember some of the counsel that I received when I was getting married 30 years ago, which is many years ago, and some of the things that was said then. As I got older, I realize now that um, it wasn't really right,
mm,
because it wasn't relevant. Do you get me? I mean, I grew up in a time where it was very different than your time. I remember walking. I remember. I remember walking down the road holding my wife's hand, and somebody telling me, I shouldn't hold my wife's hand. And I thought, I was young, and I thought, and then I thought, this isn't right. I'm sure there's nothing wrong in holding my wife's hand, walking down the road. Surely that's not. But that was something that was said to me, and I thought, that's not. And I think at the time, I then asked God, help me, Lord, because I'm sure this is just not right counsel. And I
mm,
remember seeing a senior minister and his wife at the time, years ago,
mhm,
walking down the road hand in hand, and they looked so dignified and so respectful. And I thought, thank you, Lord. You see, and sometimes as
mm.
well, what we need to be careful of as young people, you're going to receive counsel from people that have got good words for you, that have got good counsel, that's got sound words. Take those ones. And sometimes you're going to get counsel from people that, because of what they have been through,
Yeah, they're
because of
gonna
what
pass
what
it on.
bad experiences they have felt or they have seen, that's the basis of their counsel. And that's why sometimes be careful and be wise in the counsel that you do receive, and weigh it up. Is it practical? Is it Bible based? And probably it may not even be Bible based. But you know the scripture says that there is safety in the multitude of counsel. So if you do hear a counsel as you're getting married or courtship, and you think, well, this isn't right, ask somebody. Get another.
Second opinion. Are you there, Dad? Mm. Sorry,
Communication
guys.
is the key.
Okay. You broke up a little bit there, but I got that. I got that. Um, but no, thanks, Dad. I'm gonna end it here. But thanks, because I think a lot of people can actually benefit from that.
That's okay. Thanks
Um,
for asking me.
no, it's okay, not a problem. And yeah, and hopefully we might do something like this again, because that was quite a lot of good points there. It was very
Cool.
handy there. Um, but yeah, thanks, Dad.
My pleasure. Take it easy, and um, call me sometime. I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
you'll get
All
you back.
right,
I can
cool.
call you.
Do, do,
All right.
do, do I just log off?